Well, this will be our last show of the year. Come to think of it, Ted, Rob, this is our last show of 2023. Thank God we're going into a new year. It's going to be better. I'm telling you, it is going to be better. Has to be. This is going to be the year where we work very, very hard. You and I are going to stick close together if you want. I'm inviting you to. And we're going to take this country back from the people who have it, who don't love it. And that's saying something mild, actually, who don't care for it, who in many cases seem to hate it. Please listen to their language and don't just rely on me. Well, we have a new left-wing CNN, MSNBC star. You never heard of her before. You're never going to hear about her again. But she got her one day. Bellows. Full name, let me see here. Sheena Bellows. Secretary of State, not elected, put there by the Democrat machine. Described as a hyper-partisan Biden supporter, with a deep hatred of Donald Trump. You tell me how this happens if we're not becoming fascist. She took Trump off the ballot by herself. No court, no jury, no commission, no report, no investigation. Let me see now. Let's get even a little more. She took him off because he engaged in an insurrection for which there has been no charge made anywhere in the United States, of which Maine is a part. Nor have there been any charges made in Maine of insurrection against Donald Trump or anybody else he's associated with. Okay, she took him off the ballot for insurrection. But we can't find anyone charging him with insurrection. I didn't say we can't find him found guilty of insurrection. Gee, that'd be asking for too much. Gosh, we might actually be in a lawful country then. But nobody's even charged him with insurrection. The only basis on which you can decide that is you read a bunch of fiction. You read those newspapers, and that machine back there, you can't see it. It's called a television. This is the way. This is justice in America now, or it's based on. I'm not even sure it is, but I'm trying to figure out what you could base it on. The J6 report. J6 was a illegitimate committee of the House. It had no legitimate Republican members. The only two Republican members has qualified themselves by being the people who hated Donald Trump the most. And the Republican minority never approved him. So it was technically an illegal rump committee. It was made up of some of the biggest liars in the history of America, all of whom had participated in the Russian collusion conspiracy paid for by Hillary Clinton to disqualify Donald Trump. That was her report. I'm not even sure they come to the conclusion that there was an insurrection, and if they did, it would be worthless because they're a bunch of extremely partisan, lying Democrats with a major history of lying. And then you know, if what we're doing is we're just looking at the facts that, like we're sitting around the bar and talking about the facts or the barbershop or whatever. Well, the facts are that nobody found a gun on any of the so-called insurrectionists. Well, this would be the most benign group of insurrectionists I've ever heard of. And there is a concept in the law that even if you say you're going to try to commit a crime or whatever, but it's totally ridiculous and you can't do it, you're not charged with it because it's a fantasy, it's a fiction. So if anybody there had in their mind insurrection, they're a little kooky, and because they had no way of carrying it out. No arms against the most armed country in the world. No plan. No plan for succession. And again, no charges. There have been really extraordinarily unfair decisions, one worse than the other. I'm not going to say this is the worst because she's pretty much a meaningless person. And she's made herself an enemy of democracy. And they're talking about how, and they're all over those horrible stations that hate America. Why anybody watches them and why they have them on in American airports, I don't know. Like CNN, I don't have MSNBC. I don't think they know what MSNBC is, but they have CNN on. People know what CNN is, but they don't watch it. It's the weirdest damn thing. People know CNN better than MSNBC, but MSNBC has a much bigger audience than CNN. You tell me how or why. I don't understand it. But I really do feel that here's one of the favors that Democrats do for us Republicans. They overdo it all the time. They are now well into overdrive. Probably the decision of the court in Colorado was overdrive. But that was at least a court. This is a singular, unelected, highly partisan person who doesn't have a legal education interpreting the 14th Amendment of the Constitution and giving it a novel interpretation that it's never had before and using it for something it's never been used for before and disenfranchising anyone who wants to vote for Donald Trump or may think of voting for Donald Trump. That's, I think even Democrat pollsters would say that's roughly half of the voters. I mean, he's ahead now by 6 or 7 points, but even when he was behind by 2. Last time he ran, he got the most votes ever gotten by an incumbent president. Now that wasn't enough because I guess he didn't have the same after election ability to produce votes that they did. But he hardly is a minor candidate. So this woman, all by herself, has disenfranchised about half of America. Now, of course, half of America, we don't vote at 100%, but the half of America that's going to vote. She just said, well, in Maine, you may want to vote for Trump, but you can't because I know better than you. Now, tell me I'm exaggerating if I tell you that Maine is a fascist state, if they tolerate this. I don't know who or what can fire her or overrule her. But if Maine wants to be a state that considers itself a democracy in which the people choose the people who govern them and not, I don't know what she is, not commissars. It's got to be changed. You just can't do this. And I mean, you're destroying one of the most precious things in America, the right for us to choose the people who govern us, even if you don't like them. Also, Bellows, I don't know how smart you are. It doesn't sound like you're really smart. I can't hold you too accountable because you're not a lawyer. But the 14th Amendment doesn't apply to the president. the president's not included in it specifically, nor is the presidency. You'd have to say it was intended to apply to the president as any other office. Number two, Congress in section, I don't know, maybe you didn't turn the page because you're not a lawyer or a particularly smart person, but maybe you didn't and see that Congress sets the procedures. Congress has not passed a law, Commissar Bellows, giving you the right to do this. Without Congress doing that, you have no role here. Sorry. It's specifically given to Congress to decide the procedures. You didn't rely on any act of Congress in what you did, largely because there is none. I hope these points are not too difficult for you. They probably are, and that's why you should have stayed the hell out of it, because you're becoming a dictator. And finally, I go back to the original point, which is a matter of just plain old fairness. Nobody's proved a damn thing. You may hate a man, dislike a man. We're supposed to presume that people are innocent. You're not even presuming he's guilty. You're just making it up. What the hell are you? Who are you working for? I don't even think you're working. I mean, you sound like you're working for the Communist Party, not even the Democrat Party, unless they're the same thing now. So I think this was as much of an attempt to get her on television to see if she could get a job at CNN or MSNBC, which she probably could, because they have several people on there who remarkably have no ratings. No, there are very few people on television who have no one watching them, because usually like a wife or a mother or the kids watch you. But some of these people are so bad and so boring, nobody watches them. So, I mean, I should call them up and say, get somebody to, but I don't want to really help them. They have like 0 ratings. It's true. Mm-hmm. Well, almost true. We have a case in New York that I should tell you about, because it's really the product of Democratic policies on crime that are destroying America, and particularly America's cities, because American cities, the people there are brainwashed and they vote Democrat, like the people of Chicago, for example. 55 years of Democratic rule, 55 years or pretty close to it of a killing spree on weekends, in which the only question is how many people got killed and how many of them were children. One thing for sure is 7 to 8 out of 10 killed every weekend a black. Nobody seems to care, not even the black politicians of Chicago, and certainly not Prince Obama. He never gave a damn about this and never did anything about it. But of course, I mean, I think we figured out a long time ago that he's not really working for this country, nor was he ever working for Chicago, because it's part of this country. Who he's working for exactly, I don't know, but it's not this country, because everything he did was against the interests of this country, including giving people who kill Americans hundreds of millions of dollars in cash. I mean, that sounds like a guy who should be in prison, doesn't it? Well, on Christmas Day, and my goodness, it had to be Christmas Day, this madman named Stephen Hutchison, 36 years old, walked into Grand Central Station, which is our beautiful train station in New York, and went to like a food court that contains I believe it's a French restaurant, where several people who were visitors were having a Christmas morning breakfast or brunch. They were from Paraguay, if I recall correctly, and it was the parents and two daughters. One of them only 12 years old, and the other one they haven't given the age, but I suspect about 18 or 19. This guy, when he came in, was extraordinarily abusive to the waiter, made any number of racist comments about how much he hates white people, but that he was going to sit with the crackers or kill the crackers, or just a bunch of statements that indicate that the man's a racist. But he's beyond a racist. He's a a man who's deranged. It's almost obvious. And he vowed that he was going to kill all the white women. And then he pushed his way into the restaurant. And before I think he even got in there, he stabbed the 12-year-old in the side, I believe. And then he stabbed the older girl, the teenager, in the chest. She was the more severely injured. They both were injured, but she went to the hospital originally in critical condition. She had a collapsed lung. One has been released from the hospital. Not certain yet if the other's been released, but the other is, we've been able to ascertain, is going to survive. Thank God. Through no fault of Mr. Hutcherson or the law enforcement system in the city of New York. Now, this is not the police department of the city of New York. Police department of the city of New York has arrested him so often that they probably, they probably know him better than his family does. He's been arrested as an adult, and he's 36, 17 times. He's been convicted just about as many times. But the last one, or the one before this, is the critical one, because this is the reason that these girls were stabbed. The fault here does not lie with the police. They've been arresting him. Interestingly, the fault doesn't lie with the prosecutor's office, because we have an awful lot of criminals that go free because of Prosecutor Bragg, bought and paid for by Soros. But this was not his case. And in this particular case, the prosecutors, his prosecutors weren't involved in what went wrong here. What went wrong here is, in a prior case that goes back to December 12th, which is just 2 weeks before, he similarly attacked in this case, a white man, or could be an Arabic man. He was yelling and screaming about green cards, but also about killing white people at the time, and threatened to kill, and maybe even attempted to kill this Arab man. And this was after a month earlier than that, he had done the same thing with a white woman, and his former girlfriend has a 1-year order of protection against him, which he keeps violating, and she's afraid he's going to kill her. And he's constantly talking about he wants to wipe out white people. And so he goes before a judge. He gets released. That's in September. And then he gets arrested again on November the 12th. On November the 12th, the prosecutor stands up and makes the right recommendation. The prosecutor says, I recommend incarceration. I don't remember the amount of time, but for a period of time. And that he be put in for mental evaluation. He is recommending to the judge that the judge use the alternative of putting him in some form of a mental hospital incarceration. He says the judge, whose name is Judge Greco, Grieco, because I recommend that you write to him and tell him what a terrible judge he is, and that he should do something else for a living. He's only been on the bench a short time, so he shouldn't be too attached to it. He's been on the bench since March, put on there by Mayor Adams, and he's a disgrace and doesn't belong on the bench because over the objection of the prosecutor, he noted that Mr. Hutcherson did not want to be incarcerated, which of course is really surprising, isn't it? I mean, the judge must have been totally flawed when he heard that the defendant doesn't want to go to jail. And then he let him out. I mean, the guy's record, any person, conservative, liberal, looking at this, says this is a murder waiting to happen. The man announces that he wants to get rid of white people. He wants to kill them. And now he's knifed 2 young innocent girls. Of course it's a hate crime. The prosecutor and the Bronx District Attorney's Office is better than Manhattan. But the prosecutors in the earlier case in the Bronx, who are also very, very soft and very pro-criminal and let most people out, are actually recommending to put him in prison. When any judge in New York hears these left-wing pro-criminal public defenders who pose as prosecutors recommend incarceration, they should take it pretty damn seriously, because the guy's got to be pretty bad. But he decides to give him his 17th break or 18th break or 19th break or 20th break, and has absolutely no concern for the safety of the community. No concern for victims. What the hell kind of judge is this? As I say, he's only been on the bench a few months. Get him the hell off. And Adams, you're holding my old job. Do you interview all your judge candidates? Do you personally interview them? I don't know. My evaluation of you is that you're not as lazy as Biden. That'd be impossible. But you are pretty damn lazy. And you spend so much time going to clubs late at night that I really don't believe that you interview all these judge candidates yourself. I think somebody makes these choices for you, because this guy didn't deserve to be a judge. He's been a clerk all his life. He's been a political appointee to the court system by the Bronx Democratic machine. I'm sorry. You want to give him patronage, don't put him in a place they can get people killed, all right? Stick him in some scummy job that you figure out where you put people that need patronage. And when Democrats have this city, there's so much damn patronage. Yeah, I can't tell you how many people I fired. From the hospitals, I fired thousands of people, and they weren't missed. I mean, we had a staff at Kings County Hospital to take care of 850 beds. Well, we had 850 beds. We only had 200 patients. The other beds, it was a nice job. You were taking care of an empty bed. You didn't have to get any medicine. You didn't have to change it. You probably had to change it once a week, because just for the hell of it. But you know, you have plenty of time to play the horses, play the numbers, maybe deal a little drugs on the side. Yeah. And the patronage in the hospitals went to the Democratic congressmen. And Democratic mayors worked this out with them years ago, because the congressmen complained they don't have enough patronage. So one of our crooked mayors said, well, put you in nobody will notice if I put you in the hospital system. We have 18, 19 hospitals. That's okay. So then we had 4 times more people in the hospitals than we needed to take care of people. 4 of them lost accreditation because they were killing people. I changed that. I got a great head of the Health and Hospitals Corporation. And by the time I left, they were all accredited. Some of them were getting awards, and the scum was gone. So this is what happens in my city. People like this Hutchinson are walking around when usually it's the prosecutor, but the judges too. And the judges like to say our hands are tied because of the bail law. Like hell they are. They were doing it before there was the bail law. They're left-wing jackasses. That's what they are. Or they're left-wing, worse than jackasses. They're left-wingers like the Soros people who want to destroy this country so we can fulfill the Soros vision of one world.
That's what they are.
One world. Maybe it'll be run by Prince Obama, and he'll get rid of all the colonizers. Like Israel. He'll get rid of Israel, all the colonizers.
Who do they want to make their grand poobah? Who's going to be the run it all?
Prince Obama.
Oh, yeah.
Prince Obama will be in charge, and he will fulfill his father's dream of getting rid of all the colonial powers. Now, there is something about these people that you should know, which I have no respect for them at all, but I have no respect for their intellect or their ability to study, because they're all lazy bums. In fact, Obama once said he was lazy, but nobody paid attention to it. He said it during an interview with Barbara Walters, but that was covered up. When they say that Israel is a colonizer, do they realize that the land of Israel was given to them by the League of Nations and the UN? in the same way that most of the Middle Eastern countries were established. They're all pretty modern countries. So if Israel, so why aren't you going to war against Jordan? They're colonizers. They came in, they took over. You know what they did? They threw out the Palestinians, 1 million of them, and they threw out the Jews. There were Jews in all those countries that were granted nationality that never existed before by the League of Nations and the UN, and it included Israel. You want to get rid of Israel, you got about 5 other countries you got to get rid of. They're not colonizers. They were given that. It was given to them. You want to blame somebody, blame the UN. But it was a deal. So Israel got that space, and Jordan got 5 times more geography. And Jordan kicked out all the Jewish people. Where did they go? To Israel. So, okay. We'll be right back. We got plenty more to cover. And I've got some interesting things I want to say to you about next year and what we want to get accomplished next year. We want to start right now.
Our device is something that you can plug into your television, and now you can use your television as a social television type experience. So in the Portal universe, you can watch your favorite content creators' videos, live streams, music. We also have TV subscriptions as well.
Subscriptions.
You can also
regular channels, all the sports.
Right, you can actually cut your cable from your cable subscription and get QUX TV on our QX TV boxes, and you can pay half the price that you're currently paying for your cable television subscription, and you can get all the best premium TV channels and more. I mean, it's really, there's so much on there, Rudy. I mean, you've seen it.
No, I've seen it and I use it, and it's good. I mean, it's great. It's just exactly the same except for half the price. Plus, nobody is finding out what I'm watching, and that's not being reported to anybody.
Right, so you have absolute privacy using this device, which you don't have on other devices out there currently on the market.
This is absolutely great. QUX.TV is how you can find out about it. QUX.TV.
Use promo code RUDY to receive $30 off.
QUX.TV, code Rudy. Good one to start the year with. You're going to save a lot of money.
35% off.
35% off, but you're going to save a lot of money even without the 35% off.
30% off.
30%
for
off.
the QUX box. I mix up with our other great sponsor, but QUX, this is it really is the future. They're on the front lines of the new way people are consuming their
and they don't,
shows.
and they also are not left-wing dictators and cut off, OAN, or some of them have cut off Newsmax, and you'll have, depending on where you are in the country, you'll have everything. You'll have it at a lower price, and they don't spy on you. They have a technology where they don't keep, like, for example, if you make purchases or you indicate, because it has its own way of where you can make purchases right through them. They don't keep a record of it. They don't sell it. They don't sell that information to other people. So I would get my hands on it right now.
And use that promo code Rudy.
Immediately, and use promo code Rudy, okay? I'd also use this as an opportunity to tell you what I was going to tell you about next year. I'm very, very excited about the fact that we're going to start. We're going to start. Well, we can call it anything we want. We can call it organization. We can call it club. We can call it network. We could call it Citizens for Freedom. But we're going to start it. We're going to start it, and we're going to be able to communicate with each other. If you do the following, if you go to X and you go to me, it's at Rudy Giuliani, right?
Yeah, we got it right up on the screen.
At Rudy Giuliani, and you see up in the right-hand corner, I think it's the right-hand corner, you see what color is it, Ted?
Yeah, we have it.
I've forgotten the color. It's not on mine because it is me. It's like, I guess I can't subscribe to myself. Well, whatever. It's a color.
Yeah.
It just hits
it's,
some.
it's purple pinkish. We're gonna bring it
I
up.
think it's purplish. Yeah, purple pinkish. Yeah.
I'd like it to be red. Tell them to make it red for
We're gonna
Republican.
bring it up here so people can see it.
We're going to take back the honor of the color red because it's the Republicans. They got I have in the background. There's a TV screen on, and I just saw that miserable anti-American Secretary of State dictator in Maine, and they must have a picture on there where she's about 12 years old. And then when you see her live, you say to yourself, "Is it really the same person, or are there two of them? Are there two of these secretaries of state that walk around?" I just think it's ridiculous that one person makes this decision. One person can decide that a man who got 75 million votes for president and is the lead right now, it may not turn out that way, but right now he's the leading candidate of the Republican Party by, 30 points and the leading candidate of the country by 6 or 7. This little dictator can decide I don't like him, and she doesn't. She's an active partisan Trump hater. So you become secretary of state? Secretaries of state exist in state. I never knew what secretaries in states do anyway. They're not supposed to have a foreign policy. I mean, they're supposed to do like licenses and stuff like that. It isn't like Secretary of State in the United States. In fact, if the Secretary of State were carrying on foreign policy, they go to jail. So she probably has very few important things to do. And, but she gets to throw, half the people in Maine, pretty much, I can guarantee, are going to vote for Trump. That's not, well, it's not a state, he is not a state he's likely to win. But he'll get 40% of the vote, 45% of the vote. And who knows, he may win it. I mean, he may. Not impossible. So we'll get everything but Portland and Bangor. So those people outside of Portland and Bangor, right, are disenfranchised.
And Maine's one of those states that splits, right? They're in the general.
I think you can.
Maine split, like you can win.
You
can win one of the electoral votes.
He came very close.
Yeah, he came. That's why he went. Didn't he go up there for something once? Or the argument was he should because he could pick up one of the.
Did he?
It's that in Nebraska, right? Who else
Could we
does
look
that?
back and see if he got one of those in 2016? Not in 2020, because if he was going to get it, they would have taken it away from him.
She may be helping him to win it now.
So the first time since adopting the system in 2016, Maine's 4 electoral votes were split between the 2 major party
There you go.
tickets.
So it is a competitive state. I mean, if he won it in 2016, it's not impossible that he can win it in 20. It's not like she's taking him off the ballot. Like if you take him off the ballot in California,
Yeah, that's 2 electoral votes.
I think it would be horrible to do it. But or if they take Biden off the ballot in Texas, he probably has
one. Sorry, he got one.
He probably has a dream that he's going to win Texas. I think this time he goes out in Texas by 15, 20%. He's been a really lousy president. Been the worst president in our history. Well, the holiday season is still with us. We haven't even had New Year's yet, much less the Epiphany, which is the official end of the Christmas season. And Tunnel to Towers is delivering on its commitment to do good and never forget the sacrifices of America's greatest heroes during this season of hope. Between Thanksgiving and Christmas season, the foundation is delivering mortgage-free homes to dozens of America's catastrophically injured veterans, first responders, and Gold Star and fallen first responder families. One hero who received a home during the foundation's season of hope is Captain James Howard. Captain Howard served for years, mostly in the 82nd Airborne Division and Special Forces. But as a result of his service, he became seriously injured. He's a C5 quadriplegic, who lost his hand and leg functions, and he's paralyzed from the chest down. Tunnel to Towers built and gave to Captain James Howard and his family a fully adapted, mortgage-free, what we call smart home, where he has the capacity to utilize the maximum amount of independence, that can be achieved. And that'll probably even increase over the years because they keep adding new devices. I mean, it's much more complete now than when we first got involved with this. So this is an organization you want to support. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. That's T2T.org. This will be your last chance the next couple of days this year to do it. So get it in. And then actually, here's a good thing to do. Do a donation now, $11, and take care of your $11 the next year on January 2nd. Did I give you a good program there? That's good. And God bless Tunnel to Towers and the Silla family. And we'll have them on during next year and explain the story in more detail to you. So if you join the subscription channel right now, what you can get on there are these podcasts that I do, in which I go into more detail about what we're facing. Really, the whole purpose of it is so that you can understand in more depth what's going on and be armed for next year. By next year, I mean to be armed to be a warrior for freedom, so that you can go out and in many ways help us win that election. So first, you need to be knowledgeable, and it's not that easy to be knowledgeable in America, because 3/4 to more of the media outlets are completely dishonest. They just don't cover stories. Many of the things that I cover, if you listen to Newsmax or you listen to OAN or you listen to like something like my radio station, WABC, or some of the great commentators that we have, you learn. But they're only a small percentage. You watch NBC, you're not going to know that some white hating guy. I mean, they don't even bother to cover Hutchison. And when they do, they leave out the part that he went in there saying, I want to kill all white people. They do. They blame Hutchison on this. It's really the fault of New York City for not realizing how sick he is and make sure he takes his meds. And they don't blame the judge, and they never even tell you the name of the judge. So that maybe there's a certain amount of pressure to get somebody who shouldn't be there, who's putting the lives of people in jeopardy, off the bench. So join our subscription channel, and you'll get there's a podcast explaining the Colorado case. There's a really good one we did yesterday, and we did another one today, in which we talk about the Nikki Haley implosion. Nikki Haley now falls within a significant group of American politicians who, by just saying one wrong word or phrase, destroyed their candidacy for president. And in her case, very justified. Some haven't been justified, really. They've been overdone. But it happens, and as a presidential candidate, you really worry about it. I did, and all my colleagues did. I remember Ronald Reagan coming off a debate once and saying to his wife, did I say anything wrong? He meant, did I say anything disqualifying? That's what he actually meant. So what did she do? Well, I mean, there are 50 explanations for this, all of which leads to the fact you shouldn't be. Everyone leads to a final conclusion that's the same. If this explanation is true, she shouldn't be president. If that one's true, she shouldn't be president. If that one's true, she shouldn't be president. They all lead to the same conclusion. She was asked what was the cause of the Civil War. She begins by saying it's a difficult question. The minute she said that, I said, what the hell are you talking about? It's a difficult question. Immediately, there's something wrong when she says it's a difficult question. I mean, there are difficult questions like she didn't know the provinces in Ukraine that she wants to free, that she wants to spend billions of your dollars on to free, and get an awful lot of people killed, Ukrainian and Russian, and she can get them all killed to save these provinces. Vivek Ramaswamy had the naive notion that maybe she would know the name of the provinces. But Vivek has never really been in that UN culture where they don't give a damn about anything. I mean, half to 3/4 of them are crooked, and all they really care about are their cocktail parties. And a lot of them are here from crooked nations, and they're here to make a score, to make money. Well, I think she's been too affected by that.
I think the voters don't know it either.
So shall we play this? I mean, you got to see this. And then I'd like to play. So what we do is we take her and then we show you I'm only going to give you a taste of it. I'm going to give you one. We have a whole bunch of them that we have that talk themselves out of being president. You have to subscribe to see any of them. But this one we're going to give you a little freebie on. So because you know what I'd like to show them also, Ted, because I don't think it's unfair that you take her out as a presidential candidate, because she didn't just do it once, she did it twice. First, she couldn't answer about slavery, right? And then earlier, she couldn't name the provinces, and boy, did she look like a jerk. And another guy got himself knocked out of the presidency by looking as a jerk. So let's play the slavery one first.
Thank you.
Please, what was the cause of the United States Civil War?
Well, don't come with an easy question or anything. I mean, I think the cause of the Civil War was basically how government was going to run, the freedoms and what people could and couldn't do. What do you think the cause of the Civil War was? I'm sorry?
I'm not running for president. I wanted to see your view on the cause of the Civil War.
I mean, I think it always comes down to the role of government and what the rights of the people are. And I will always stand by the fact that I think government was intended to secure the rights and freedoms of the people. It was never meant to be all things to all people. Government doesn't need to tell you how to live your life. They don't need to tell you what you can and can't do. They don't need to be a part of your life. They need to make sure that you have freedom. We need to have capitalism. We need to have economic freedom. We need to make sure that we do all things so that individuals have the liberties so that they can have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to do or be anything they want to be without government getting in the way.
Thank you. And in the year 2023, it's astonishing to me that you answer that question without mentioning the word slavery.
What do you want me to say about slavery?
No, you've answered my question. Thank you.
Next question.
That was in New Hampshire, by the way, the live free or die state. I didn't know that we fought the Civil War to get government out of our lives. Boy, I always thought of myself as at least an amateur historian. And I thought I knew the reasons for the Civil War. I would think as a governor of South Carolina, one of the things she might have read was the declaration her state put down when they were the first one to secede from the Union. And the main reason they gave was slavery. But apparently, we did it in order to be free of government being too much in our lives. Something very curious about that answer.
Absolutely.
Very, very curious. And that I think what has a lot to do with the worst characteristic that an American president can have nowadays, and that is this sycophantic pandering, in which you don't stand for anything and you just try to not get the people of South Carolina who might still be attached to the Confederacy upset with you. You don't want to get the people of New Hampshire that had per capita the greatest losses in the Civil War. I don't know. She probably doesn't know that. I mean, she clearly isn't the brightest light either, because a really, really good, sneaky, two-faced politician like a Bill Clinton would have come up with a much better answer.
Yeah, you could tell she was nervous.
It would have been a Bill Clinton would have come up with states' rights or the economic imbalance between the North and the South, which are, academically accepted other reasons for the war. But to leave out slavery. Now, she deserves getting kicked out of the race because she gave another indication that she's not capable of being president. And that was demonstrated by, and Ramaswamy must know something about her that we don't know, because he's after her like crazy. I mean, he even held up a sign that she's corrupt. And how did Vivek know she wouldn't know this? That's really interesting, because Chris Matthews at the first debate for president said to me, what are the difference between Shia and Sunni, with this grin on his face, like, I'm going to take this rookie out. And I said, Chris, would you like the historical distinction at the very beginning of the religion or the modern one? Immediately his shit-eating grin came off his face. And I said, well, it began with a dispute over the succession to the caliphate. Who was going to succeed Muhammad, a blood relative or somebody elected? Now, you want me to tell you what it involved? No, you satisfied my purpose. And later on, he said, I was just trying to take you out. I figured you were going to say blah, 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 blah. Now, I want you to look at this, because you look at this facial expression. She might as well answer, I don't know. I mean, she looks like, well, she definitely looks, I won't go any further than, she looks like somebody that shouldn't be president. Yeah. Let's watch this. And Ramaswamy did a great service here for us in exposing someone who could be who would be a terrible, not as bad as Biden, but she'd be a terrible president.
Policy experience is not the same as foreign policy wisdom. I want everybody at home to note that I was the first person to say we need a reasonable peace deal in Ukraine. Now a lot of the neocons are quietly coming along to that position, with the exceptions of Nikki Haley and Joe Biden, who still support this, what I believe is pointless war in Ukraine. And I think those with foreign policy experience, one thing that Joe Biden and Nikki Haley have in common is that neither of them could even state for you 3 provinces in eastern Ukraine that they want to send our troops to actually fight for. Look at that. This is what I want people to understand. These people have, I mean, she has no idea what the hell the names of those provinces are, but she wants to send our sons and daughters and our troops and our military equipment to go fight it. So reject this myth that they've been selling you, that somebody had a cup of coffee stint at the UN and then makes $8 million after, has real foreign policy experience. It takes an outsider to see this through. Look at the blank expression. She doesn't know the names of the provinces.
Look at that.
The funny thing is, the other two kept their mouths shut too. I know Christie for a long time, good and bad. If he knew it, he's a big know-it-all. He would have shot out immediately. Donetsk. I can even spell it. Donetsk. Donetsk. I can spell it. Luhansk.
I think
I just want to show you that I know it.
You put your finger on something when you said that Vivek might know something that we don't.
But how? I mean, I don't know. I might not do that. I might not have done that. I was a lawyer trained, which you never ask a question you don't know the answer to.
You don't know how they're going to respond.
Yeah, I might not have done that.
If she got him.
Yeah, he would have looked like a jerk if she said Luhansk and Donetsk. Yeah,
he must have saw something.
Which one would you like me to mention? The one
someone told
I would have said, which one do you want me to mention? The one closer to Crimea or the one further away?
You told me, I asked you, Mayor, and you said, Ted, I'd give you directions.
Yeah.
Tell I tell you.
Yeah, I'll give you the driving, because I've driven through all those.
And maybe that reporter knows something too. Maybe that reporter,
that reporter was that guy was a plant.
Nobody. Oh, more recently, yeah.
On slavery? No, that guy knows that she had a very, very kind of pandering history on the Civil War in South Carolina, because she was very, very much against taking down the Confederate flag until a shooting or a terrible police shooting. I've forgotten which one.
Church shooting.
Yeah, a church shooting, a church bombing, I think it was. Well, let's look it up. But and then she changed her mind right away, because public opinion changed, and she took down the flag. And then and I think she may have faced questions like this in South Carolina, and always given very mealy-mouthed somehow she can't stand up to whatever her real views are on
You
it.
could tell she looked-
June
she looked-
2015 shooting. 9 people killed
Right.
during Bible study at Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church, the oldest black church in the southern United States. And that
Where was it located? In what city is it?
in trying to get the location here. Charleston.
In Charleston. Okay. So in South Carolina itself. And she immediately changed her position. So he must there. If you look at her background, it's hard to get specifics, but it says that this Confederate Civil War slavery thing has always been sort of a problem for her. So the guy knew it, because you wouldn't ask a question like, who would in a million years think she would know the answer to what was the cause of the Civil War? I mean, both of those were extraordinary. But that expression on her face, I mean, I don't know. I don't know why. I guess Trump is ahead of her by so much he doesn't bother to do negative ads. But I would just play that and say, you really want this for president?
Like you said, she doesn't get an excuse. She was literally the ambassador to the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations.
And I really think it's funny. You're absolutely right. DeSantis and Christie are saying, don't ask me.
Yeah. Ron DeSantis is like panicky. Like, don't look at him. Don't look at him. He can't see me if I don't look at him, right?
Christie actually put a sandwich down.
Yeah. He lost his appetite. He was so nervous.
He was so quick to come to her defense previously. He wasn't so quick that
Yeah,
time.
right. Yeah. Where was he coming to her defense?
I think he after he came to her defense.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
something
Yeah,
that he did know.
but on what a nasty guy Vivek was, because Vivek is pointing out she's an airhead. I mean,
Nasty, right,
Yeah.
right.
Christie sounds like the biggest liberal ever. I mean,
oh,
you're
Christie
just attacking her because she's a woman. That's what
doesn't
you're
he?
saying.
Doesn't he work for one of them? He works for ABC. Yeah.
He spends all his time just shuttling between ABC headquarters and CNN.
Well,
MSNBC.
on that
Just a little
point,
route around Midtown.
Biden is beginning to pull out the rug on Ukraine.
Yeah.
Big time. He's ready to double cross him and stab him in the back.
Yeah, re-election.
Yeah,
They know the
he's now
polling.
now there have been any number of reports out of the White House, leaks, of course, that the United States and Europe have changed their position on Ukraine. And we just gave them 12 billion in arms. And it was clear that was the last we were going to give them unless Congress approves more. And then it is leaked that we have sent the signal to them. There's going to have to be a compromise here. This can't be an endless war. And what does that mean? That means that Zelensky has vowed to drive Russia out of Ukraine. To do that, he would really need. Well, he hasn't been able to do it with 150 billion of American money and almost an equal amount of everything else. Now, the question is, and we won't know the answer to it because it's a terribly corrupt country, and so is ours. Because I don't mean our country is, our regime is. I don't know how much of that money was spent on the war. I can tell you not all of it. I mean, I'd put my life at stake that not all of it went to the war. I mean, they just have too much damn stealing going on there. There were reports the other day that they're having terrible problem with the draft. They're first of all getting a lot of evasions. They're getting a lot of excuses for not serving. In some cases, legit because they've kind of run out of young men. They're in the 40 age group now for soldiers. Some of whom are complaining they can't fight. They can't deal with the stress of it. And they've got another very serious problem, which in a way we shouldn't turn up our nose at because we had this problem in the Civil War in some places. They've got people paying to get other people to serve for them. And of course, it's always rich, poor. The upper middle class or the rich in Ukraine paying the poor people, and the poor people are getting their sons killed.
Would they give them their ID?
I don't know. It didn't go beyond saying they have a very serious bribery problem going on where people being paid to serve for other people, which of course not only is terribly corrupt, but it's also it destroys the morale of an army when people are there not because they believe. I think one of the reasons they were so effective at the beginning was the Russians had no morale. I think Putin forced them into a war they didn't want to be in. And they're fighting people who are fighting for their home and for their children and for their houses. Now, I don't know if the Russians have any more morale or any more enthusiasm, but if anything, they've gotten over their resistance to it. And now it's the Ukrainians that seem to be losing the morale. Now, if that happens, there's no amount of money we could put in that will win the war for them. And if we were really serious, we would have given them the money, but we would have set up a very, very strict accountability program because just as a serious person doing this who cares about the people of Ukraine, you got to realize when you're turning money over to a Zelensky, not all that money is going where it's supposed to go. I mean, all of a sudden, the second most corrupt country in the world turns on us because they're attacked by Russia. The last time they were attacked by Russia, a lot of these oligarchs made a fortune on both sides. War becomes an opportunity for them. So, and then you can't escape the fact that Biden was one of them. I mean, the unfortunate thing here is the war had to evolve a country in which he's tremendously compromised. I mean, they consider him one of them, a crook like him. I mean, they've told me that. They would, everybody here, some of them would say to me, people here think Americans are so naive. We all know he's a crook. I mean, you can't tell. I mean, you just get a couple of the facts alone. His son worked for the biggest crook in the country. The guy had a big case against him. The case was a terrific case. And the case gets dropped for no reason. And Biden didn't do it. I mean, and that isn't the reason why Zlochevsky is paying millions of dollars to a degenerate drug addict to get his case dropped. But you got to be stupid not to figure it out. So shall we take a short break? All right.
It's time for some balance in nature.
All right.
Body is an amazing chemical laboratory. When you give it the right chemistry, it functions the best. Balance of Nature is the ultimate whole fruit and vegetable chemistry.
Get 35% off your first order by using discount code RUDY.
Body is an amazing chemical laboratory. When you give it the right chemistry, it functions the best. Balance of Nature is the ultimate whole fruit and vegetable chemistry.
Get 35% off your first order by using discount code RUDY.
Balance of Nature. As you can see, the mayor is taking his
I'm balanced in naturing.
Balance of Nature.
Now, you notice I've taken them off my tree for next Christmas. I may remove these after a while or maybe get another bottle when we run out here. But you see, I had this on my Christmas tree. So here, this is the fruit right there. This is the veggies. People take different amounts depending on, I take 4 of each per day. Two fruits in the morning, 2 at night, 2 veggies in the morning, 2 at night. You can do 1, you could do more. This is terrific. It gives you the fruits and the vegetables that you need. And if you do any research on this, you'll see that this is where you get the vitamins and the minerals and from your fruits and vegetables. And none of us eat enough of it. And this process here, you'll see them right on the front, condenses all the veggies into the capsule, and you get more than enough. And then if you eat veggies and fruits, you get even more, and you should eat them. This doesn't mean you should stop eating them. Well, we have got at least 8,000 people coming to the border. Really, And the president is taking his second Christmas vacation for free, as a freebie, as a freeloader. And he has now spent 40% of the year on vacation. Don't you get fired for that? I mean, if any employer had somebody, or you become a part-time worker, can you make the presidency part-time? So who would he? I guess he would. Why not be honest about it and do it part-time with Obama? Because Obama's lazy too, and he doesn't want the responsibility. Obama likes to be, on the side, and he can come in when he wants to, make his $1 billion, and then just, keep moving us toward being a communist country like he was taught when he was a young man. Kind of works out well for them.
Yeah, right.
Well, thank you very, very much. We're going to go into soccer time, but for all of our friends that watch us on Newsmax, and I want to wish you all a very, very happy New Year. And you'll see me on Newsmax on Monday night with Dr. Maria. We're going to be substituting. Which show are we substituting for, Ted? Do you remember?
I've been told Eric Bowling.
Oh, my great friend Eric. So Dr. Maria and I will be doing Eric Bowling show, and you'll get a taste of what Uncovering the Truth is like, which Dr. Maria and I do every Sunday between 10 and 11, which we will do this Sunday on New Year's Eve. And other than that, we'll see you in 2024. Right? Yeah. And if you want to stay on for soccer time, feel free.
Body is an amazing chemical laboratory. When you give it the right chemistry, it functions the best. Balance of Nature is the ultimate whole fruit and vegetable chemistry.
Get 35% off your first order by using discount code RUDY.
Well, into soccer time, and this way we're still back in 2023. This is like one of those time back and forth movies, like I just watched, for the 100,000th time over Christmas, I watched Scrooge, and it's so funny because it goes back and forth in time. And of course, the same thing. It's a Wonderful Life, which are the two necessities at Christmas time. I watch a lot of Christmas stuff, but those two I watch, and I don't know, I never get bored. I always find something new in each one of them that I focus on. This time it was the acting of James Stewart, because I had just seen a special on James Stewart on Newsmax, which I recommend highly to you. It's a very good special on General James Stewart. He's a general in the United States Army Air Corps, eventually that became the Air Force. And he was a very accomplished, I don't remember if he was a fighter pilot or a bomber pilot, but decorated. And 3 or 4 years, really in warfare, no sitting behind a desk writing scripts.
People in Hollywood used to be noteworthy kind of people back in those days. Not like
James Stewart was a war hero.
Unbelievable.
He was a war hero. He was something like Ted Williams, who was a great fighter pilot. Ted Williams used that hand-eye coordination to be one of the greatest hitters in the history of baseball, and also one of the greatest fighter pilots in the history of our Air Force.
We were more of a meritocracy back in those days. Is that true, do you think?
Well, I think we also loved our country more. I mean, I was so disappointed when Major League Baseball did that whole thing with Black Lives Matter. It's like it just destroyed Major League Baseball for me. And I also think about, because I spent 8 years as the mayor, and my police officers kept Yankee Stadium and Shea Stadium then, and now Citi Field, safe, and took really good care of it. And they went through some bad years where we, particularly Yankee Stadium was in what was a very bad section of the Bronx, and I made it a really good section of the Bronx, and the cops were a big part of that. I mean, they owe a lot to the police, and also the players. Their safety is taken care of by the police.
everybody.
I mean, we get tremendous crowds at Yankee Stadium. You don't know who they are, and we do tremendous. I mean, NYPD. This is me. Over the years, they've developed protocols so that when you think of our sports events compared to some other cities, and given the nature of New York City, it's so big and it's so transient. Thank God we don't have problems. When have we had a problem at a game? You know, and the teams do a good job of security in New York, but a large part of it is they're taught by the NYPD. It's the like the Yankees and the Mets in particular have a very close relationship with the NYPD. The head of security at Yankee Stadium for years was a retired detective. He was using all NYPD tactics to make Yankee Stadium safe. And credit to them, they've made both those stadiums real. There was a period of time when there'd be a lot of fights, and now
Nature creatures.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, I mean, they have a whole they have a whole protocol for it, which we help them establish. They'll throw you out on suspicion.
That's become a thing now at games, right?
Oh yeah. They watch. They've got. I won't tell you exactly the secrets, but they've got a very, very good. They're watching everybody, so they see you in the first couple of innings starting to act funny. You're out. If they think you past a point where, and they may throw one out as a deterrent. They see a bunch of guys, and they see they're already beginning. Yes. And they grab the one they think is the worst and say, "Come on, out."
Everybody sees it and says,
"Oh." And then everybody calms down.
That's right. Yeah.
And they'll cut off beer too when they have to.
The opposite of what they did during the riots.
Yeah, they'll cut off beer when they have to.
Right.
Yeah. But the relationship with the PD is very, very close. Now, why do I say that? And maybe many of you are confused also, but I wasn't confused because I'm very sensitive on this subject, and I study everything. The minute Black Lives Matter became a thing, I didn't just listen to the communists on television. I read about them. They're a communist organ. Look, every single fact I'm going to tell you now, every serious person knows. They didn't know it when I first started saying it. Black Lives Matter did not begin as a civil rights black-white organization. It was three Marxist lesbians who were very, very activist lesbians, very activist. What would you call? Not even lesbians, into this new, 50 gender thing type people, and but they were trained Marxist Leninists, because part of Marxist theory is to degenerate your morals and your sexuality. The more they can make you immoral, and the more they can make you doubt your sexuality, the more chaos they can create, and the more they can take over, and you'll be submissive to dictators. Sorry, that's the thing. So these three women, particularly Patricia Kalors, were students, and I think they were mostly trained in Maoist theory as opposed to Russian theory. She's very proud of it. She's written about it. She doesn't hide the fact that she'll even say, "I'm a very well-trained Marxist." Now, everybody else tries to hide it, but she's very proud of it. Then you read their objectives. They had 20 at one time. The second one is to destroy the nuclear family, because the nuclear family takes away your freedom. What does that mean? First of all, it means no, males are the enemy of the people. Exactly how you're going to keep the race going without us, I don't know. But contrary to all other thinking, for example, about black households in the poor neighborhoods where there isn't enough involvement of the father, you'll have people like Denzel Washington, or say this. They believe there shouldn't be any father in the house at all. They think fathers are very destructive, too domineering, they make everyone their slaves. So no fathers, no men. I mean, the man can make the baby, but then get the hell out of the house. And by and large, if you really read it carefully, they subscribe to classic Marxist theory, which is get the kid away at about 2 years old so you can train him to be a little communist or a little Nazi. And don't let the parents get in the way of that because they'll just screw around with you. Now, do you see that? What I just told you, do you see that in modern America, my friends? Of course you do. You see it. It broke out like in a fire
Like
during the
wildfire.
election in Virginia,
Yes.
right? I mean, he just gave it all away, and now you got the attorney general, whose son-in-law runs a company to teach schools how to teach critical race theory, DEI, all the different, and also gender sensitivity. Gender sensitivity is, let's see if we can get a 6-year-old to start doubting that they're male. You think this is being done for their good? Like hell it is. It's being done to further the ends of Marxism. Now, do some people have misplaced ideological attachment? Of course. But communists always take advantage of that. That's why only so let's look at China, for example, as the best example of a communist society. There's about 1.4 billion people in China. Only 100 million are communists. That's less than 10% of the population. So the others don't believe in communism. Some of them probably hate it, and some of them are just brainwashed and go along with it. And they've been made that way. That's the whole idea of destroying your educational system.
Pavlovian.
So we think our educational system was destroyed. I don't know why we think it was. It was destroyed specifically because of Marxism. Also, the major unions were very heavily influenced by communists from the very beginning. If you know the American Union movement, it had a big dichotomy between the communist and the anti-communist unions, and that's how it separated into the AFL-CIO. I mean, the major leaders of the union movement were very anti-communist. They believed in workers' rights, but they didn't believe in everything else that went along with communism. You can't believe in God. You can't have a family. That you can't have democracy. You can't. So they split in half because of the communist influence. And so some unions have a real communist background and other ones don't. The teachers union has a real communist background. It's not an accident that they teach Marxism in our schools when they can get a chance to do it, or they get involved in all of this deterioration of people's morals. Like having drag queens come in and talk to 8-year-olds. I mean, can you imagine what the 8-year-old must think when they see this
Monster.
See whatever it looks like? I mean, the kids who are 2 and 3 get scared by Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a drag queen?
Yeah, woman down the dress, she got legs like Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's
Yeah,
normal.
right. Or hairy legs.
Like Joe Biden.
Yeah, what is that all about? I gotta call a psychiatrist that I trust. I gotta ask him, Ted. I gotta ask him what the hell. Well, we figured out that it's a fetish, right? Trick or something or other.
That has to do with hair.
If you no, that's different. That's if you like to smell hair. Look, there are all these pictures. We'll have some fun some night when we don't have anything serious to cover. And we'll get out all of the shots of Biden smelling girls' hair. Now, the creepy ones are when they're underage.
Yeah.
That's really creepy stuff.
And then when the girls themselves have
When they're older and they're adult women, it's kind of creepy. I mean,
right.
I guess because he's president, I'm really surprised he didn't grow up like in an Italian atmosphere. Somebody punched him in the mouth. Yeah. I could see him doing that in my family.
I think the reaction of the little girls is very
I'd see him doing it in an Italian neighborhood in Philadelphia. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, I don't think
I could just see it.
Wouldn't make it too far.
At a wedding. Suppose he was in an Italian wedding. They'd take his lights out. Yeah, they'd be.
Named Vinny would take him outside. outside.
Yeah, there'd be no corn pop for him. I'll tell you that.
I guess you guys could.
There's no Italian corn pop in Philadelphia. I picked Philadelphia. But I think they're among the toughest.
I got some
Brooklyn-
I got some Italian friends in Philly. And
Yeah, Brooklyn's not bad either, though, boy.
They're tough guys.
But Brooklyn likes to use. They like to use baseball bats more than fists, but they are damn good with baseball bats. When I was a U.S. attorney, if you told me somebody got beat up with a baseball bat, I'd say go look for an Italian.
I'm going to say this
And,
wrong.
and I know this is racist as hell, but it wasn't. It was deductive reasoning.
Weapon of choice.
It was deductive reasoning, and this is what they do with all this stuff, and it's so counterproductive to the black community. They say, "Oh, why are the police searching more people in the black community?" That's prejudice. No, it isn't. It's to protect the black community, you jackass.
Right.
Here's what happens, and it's not racist at all. The Justice Department was going to sue us, the New York City Police Department, because we were searching 69 or 70% of our searches with black people. Only 17% of the population was black, or 18%, or 19 or 20. So it has to be prejudice.
Right.
It has to be that we're just picking out extra blacks because we don't like. Oh, they took it right to the point of they're going to bring a case.
Right.
Eastern District of New York got permission from the Justice Department Civil Rights to bring the case again based on that idiocy. And I asked for a meeting with Eric Holder, who worked for me one time.
Really?
And this is when Eric Holder was still a lawyer, and Janet Reno. And he granted me the meeting. I was the mayor then. And I brought my staff, my legal staff down, who were fabulous, Mike Hess, and Bernie Carrick had been police commissioner for 2 days, and I brought him with me. And I went and I sat in the Attorney General's conference room. Now, remember, I worked there for years. So it's like being at home for me. I know the secretaries. I know that. And I'll tell you, my explanation was pretty darn simple. My explanation was, let's look at the murder. Let's just look at the murder rates for a second. And these murder rates remain true when we had 2,000 murders and when we had 600 murders. 70 to 75%, maybe sometimes 80% of the people murdered are black.
Right.
Equal percentage murderers are black. Right. About 12% of the people murdered are white, and about 8% of the murderers are white. So if I'm going to be looking for murderers, 7 out of 10 times I'm going to be looking for black murderers, right? But I'm not going to be looking at them because I'm just going to do 7 out of 10 black murderers. By and large, I'm looking for murderers based on descriptions. Yeah. A murder takes place. You ask the witnesses who did it. They say a 6'1" black guy. Who tells us that? Usually black people.
Right.
And so we end up 7 out of 10 times looking for black people. If I decided I was going to look for murderers based on the percentage of the population, I wouldn't solve most of the black murders. Because I'd be looking, first of all, half the time, how about this? Yeah. Half the time you're looking for women. Half the population are women.
Right.
Well, women don't commit murder.
They never murder. Basically.
No, I mean 1%, 2%.
Yeah.
But according to them, 50% of the time I should be looking for women.
Yeah.
So, and this is at the core of all of their corrupt affirmative action. All these is this complete fallacy that's extraordinarily destructive.
Yes.
And hurts them. Because if you when they got rid of stop, question, and frisk years later, I won. They didn't do the case. And then Mike and Ray Kelly, I was doing 100,000 of these a year. They went up to 600,000. And that sort of, that made it hard to keep the records as tight and the proof as tight. And I still think it was constitutional, but they declared it unconstitutional. And Adams is a real idiot not to go back to what we did that was approved by Janet Reno and Holder. How can you have any better approval for the constitutionality and fairness of a process? He could go back to our old process and just copy it, and he'd have Justice Department approval for it. So he could do all the stop, question, and frisk that he wanted, except he'd have to follow guidelines that were somewhat stricter.
Eric Holder was not belligerent when you met with him. He was
No, but he hadn't become as this is before he corrupted the Justice Department for Obama.
Things are different now.
Yeah, Obama was the turning point. Obama was the turning point where we went into overdrive toward communism. We've been headed that way in the Democratic Party since the 20s, on and off. I mean, Roosevelt's administration was filled with communists, and then they weeded them out, but they kept their hold on it, and then they got a true believer in Obama. Just look at his training, his early training, and then a lot of them get driven on certain things, you know. Old communism was distinctions of class and money. New communism, distinctions of race. But in Obama's case, it's driven a lot by this colonialism, fact and fiction. And when you say dreams of his father, a lot of that is the corruption of his father. His father was an anti-colonialist. Now, he shouldn't have been as influenced by his father. I think he was with his father for no more than about a year of his life or something. But maybe that created psychologically
kind of shows
a real desire to please his father.
Yeah.
So the minute he becomes president, he gets rid of Winston Churchill's bust. He says Winston Churchill was a colonialist. Winston Churchill was a man who saved Western civilization, you idiot. And to say that Israel is a colonialist, I mean, it becomes like a stupid way to look at the world. And then you apply that to everything, and maybe it applies to 10 to 15% of the situations. I mean, by all intents and purposes, America is not a colonialist power. England was a colonialist power, but we had a great big land. We didn't need to colonize, you know? So, well, then you could say, well, we took the land from the Native Americans. Everybody took the land from somebody. I mean, there was somebody in Germany before the Germans, you know, and there was somebody in Italy before the Italians, and there was somebody in Greece before the Greeks, and this is what happens as the real, and this is what happens as societies hopefully improve, right. And the general thrust of Western civilization has been significant improvements in the quality of life, in the rights of human beings, in the way in which we treat each other. And this faux history is so damaging, but it really is prescribed by Marxists. So let's see what else I have to cover so that I have everybody here. I have everybody here up to date on what you're not going to see in the communist press, because there are things you're not going to see in the communist press.
While you do that, I'll play a short video clip.
What are you going to play?
Presented without comment.
Oh, I see. This is one we can play this every night now.
I haven't had a chance to play it. It gives you a chance to read through your papers. I don't want to scare everyone away here, but
I got a great one too.
Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, prospero año y felicidad. Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, prospero año y felicidad. Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad, prospero año y felicidad.
What's this thing here like this? What's this? What is that? What was that? Oh, we don't have to do that. I'll read it to them. They don't let children watch that, do they? It would scare them. That is a quintessential Democrat governor of the modern age. When they go back 300 years from now, and they want to know what was a Democrat governor like in the 2020s, they'll say that's a Democrat governor, a complete fool, a guy that probably, I don't think he smokes pot, but how can you be in Denver, Colorado, and not be affected by it? It's in the air so much. He has single-handedly, along with the various Democrat mayors, made the cities extraordinarily dangerous. It was one of the safest places in the world. They're trying to make themselves into a welfare society. And then he's a fool. I mean, he's basically just a foppy fool. What the hell is that? That could put him on the short list for vice president of the Democrat Party, a performance like that. I mean, how is that so different than Kamala Harris? Russia is a big country. Ukraine is a small country. Big countries sometimes take small countries because small countries are small and big countries are big. Right? He could be a good replacement for her because he's as big a jackass as she is. Here, I'll read you this. I like cartoons, and I didn't bother to clip this out correctly, but can you all see the cartoon? Then I'll read it to you.
Just hold it up for a second.
Yeah, you just see the cartoon here. I'll read it to you.
We'll read it off.
Like LaGuardia.
Can you face it and read it off there?
I can't, but I'm going to read it. And then we just need to focus committee members on the question. Okay. What did the president forget, and when did he forget it? Pretty good.
That was funny.
For President Dopey.
Right.
Okay, now, one last thing that is of absolute necessity. You got to know about this because this is really terrible, particularly since we're going to spend some time on helping. This is a gentleman named Cornell. I want you to see Cornell. There's Cornell. Can you all see Cornell?
Yes.
Good looking dog, huh?
Yes.
Cornell was stabbed in Freeport, Long Island, New York, 17 times. We don't know the reason. 17 times. Somebody stabbed this dog. He has since, this happened back in November. So don't worry, he lived. You can see the operations and the scar tissue here, all here. All right, isn't he a cute dog?
Yeah.
And he looks sad, doesn't he?
Yes.
Oh, look at his look at the look on his face.
I wish he would have attacked his attacker.
Well, we don't know what happened. We don't know what happened. Long Island fiend stabs dog 17 times. He was only 2 years old. Big dog for 2 years old, and he was found bloodied in the streets of Freeport on November 27. And I think he had 17 separate stab wounds when he was found by a woman who's not a suspect and taken to a veterinarian in Farmingdale. He survived and was present at the press conference they held on this the other day. He was not wearing a collar. He didn't have a microchip. But they do believe he's somebody's dog because he was very healthy. Otherwise, very healthy dog. He wasn't underfed so maybe now with his picture in the paper like this, somebody will come and claim him, or they think he's a good candidate to be adopted because they say he's a very, very calm, very, very sweet dog. They don't say what breed he is, or he may be a mixed breed.
Looks like a pit bull.
He could be, couldn't he? Yeah.
That's what he looks like to me.
And pit bulls, as long as they're not trained for fighting, are wonderful little dogs.
Yeah.
Or big dogs. Very, very loving dogs. You just got to make sure they haven't been trained for. Any breed of dog would become that way if they were trained the way they're trained. They just happen to be exceptionally good at fighting because they have very strong jaws. And but Dr. Maria has a pit bull, and this is a perfect dog in a way. This dog, if you came up to her door, this dog would scare the living daylights out of you. I'm sorry, the worst criminal in the world would run away. He's about 70 pounds. He's got the loudest bark I ever heard in my whole life. And because people are so afraid of pit bulls, you would start shaking. You got past the door. You got inside. He'd jump on you. You faint. And then he'd start licking the hell out of you. This guy wouldn't attack anybody. He wouldn't attack anybody. I think maybe if there really was something going on, it would do some kind of instinct. But all he wants to do is sit on your lap, kid. He thinks he's a lap dog. He's 70-pound, big mush. And this guy, I bet this guy's the same thing. Maybe he didn't attack the people who attacked him. He thought they were playing with him. I never understood the cruelty to animals. I never understood that. I mean,
we almost have to apologize to them for our crazy species.
Yeah, I've never understood it, and I really do think it's a whole. It's as a whole. Like I remember when I was a young boy, I think it was my first year of high school, and I used to commute into Brooklyn, and these kids one day, right out of the blue, say to me after school, we had nothing to do, it wasn't baseball or something. Some of them were on the baseball, and then they said to me, "Want to come over to the Brooklyn or the Manhattan Bridge or the whatever bridge was closest to Bishop Loughlin High School?" I said, "What do you want to go to the bridge for?" "Oh, you know, we love to grab the cats and we break their necks and throw them over the." I said, "What? No, that's a joke, right? What do you want to break the necks of cats for?" That's fun. I stayed away from them for 4 years of high school. A couple of them got thrown out at different times, and always wanted to follow them up because I thought maybe they probably turned into serial killers or something. Who the hell would find it fun breaking the neck of a dog or a cat? Or I mean, I can see killing rats, but
even that is hard to do, right? I mean, it's hard to kill anything.
Well, not for Mayor Adams. He's got so many rats here. They always worried about the rats. I worry about the human rats more than I worry about the rats.
They're worse.
I don't like rat. Nobody likes rats because they've spread disease, but the human rats do a lot more damage than the rats.
Worst rats of all, like running this whole thing, right?
And I don't mean by rats the ones who squeal and stuff like that. That's a description of that. I'm talking about the creepy bums that prey on other people in this city, and there are way too many of them. So now you got to go to X, and you got to hit subscribe, and you will find there two editions now of our examples of presidential candidates who talked themselves out of a presidency, like Nikki Haley. You'll also see a very, very timely description, and this was done before the White House leaked its change of position on Ukraine. You'll see a very tight, but I think useful analysis of both the Ukraine and Israel situation, and the fact that they're both at a sort of a decision point right now. They're both at a point where they're going to be forced to make decisions about going forward. And Israel going forward to its goal of eliminating Hamas, and in the case of Ukraine, its goal of getting Russia out of Ukraine. And I'll give you a couple of ideas of what to look for, so we see what direction it's going, because it's not going to get done like that, but it's going to get done in the early part of next year, because there's no way Biden wants to go into the latter part of next year with those wars going on hot and heavy. You also have another piece there on the Colorado case, and an analysis of this theory that they can remove someone from the ballot for something for which he wasn't charged or proven guilty, which is frightening. Frightening that there are Americans who believe you can do that. because they're not really Americans. I mean, they were brought up in some other country and taught some other system of law. That is not law. That's lawless. And I mean, that would be a characteristic of a Nazi or communist government. And there's a whole little statement on Christmas. There'll be one soon on New Year's, and over the weekend we'll do something on New Year's Eve. Maybe I'll tell you how the New Year's Eve ball lighting ceremony is organized, because I was part of it for 8 years and was the person who pushed down the ball. One time with Muhammad Ali, and one time under serious terrorist threat. We'll go through that. We'll also go through that next week as we come out of it. But let's hope that everything remains on Sunday. Be on Sunday night. Let's hope that it remains very, very peaceful. In 2000, we faced threats, and the New Year's Eve celebration in Seattle was canceled that year, and there was a lot of pressure to cancel it here in New York, and we didn't. Instead, we engaged in a massive security effort, going down below the ground. And given the fact that you've got 20,000, 30,000 people on a street, and you start blowing things from below the ground, you can start killing a lot of people. So we secured it from below the ground. We secured it from top of buildings, but it was still touch and go, and sort of prepared us in a way for September 11, although nothing really prepares you for it. So if you go on, we'll have a special on that ready for Christmas, for the New Year's Eve. You can get it on X, and you hit the button. And the reason I'm pushing it so hard is I want the maximum number of people for next year, because we're going to be an army. We will, as we get to a scale and it produces enough money, what we'll do is we'll begin a communication system so that we can communicate with each other, so that we can give you advice on how you can participate in the campaign. First, being knowledgeable is part of it, but then there are a whole bunch of ways to come up that you can't even think of in advance. But if we stay in close contact and we know where you are, we can get you involved, so that we don't take chances this time. We're not letting anybody take this country in the direction that the Bidenistas are taking it, because then we will have dishonored ourselves as Americans. We're supposed to pass this country on better than we passed it does. And right now, if we die, we're passing it off much, much worse. So we're going to fight this with everything we got. So I want to wish you all a very, very, very happy New Year. In case we don't talk before then, you can get me on subscribe. You can get me on Sunday morning at between 10 and 11 with Dr. Maria, or on New Year's Day between 3 and 4 on WABCradio.com. That's where I'm with Dr. Maria, Uncovering the Truth. And then we'll be back at 8 o'clock here, and we'll also be on Newsmax. So you've got plenty of opportunities to see each other, and you've got plenty of opportunities to reflect on the new year and start building up that strength that we're going to need to show that we are worthy of being a generation of Americans. God bless the people of Israel. God bless the people of the United States of America, and God bless America. And Happy New Year. Our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze.